for my listeners out there. I would like to introduce Miss Jackie Jenkins-Scott. She is a nationally recognized leader with more than 3 decades of experience in senior and executive leadership positions in public health, higher education, and corporate and nonprofit boards. She is widely recognized as a transformational leader, helping individuals and institutions achieve high performance and strategic results. It is my pleasure and an honor to introduce Jackie Jenkins-Scott, author of the highly regarded leadership book, The 7 Secrets of Responsive Leadership.
Well, thank you. I am delighted to be here with you this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I want to welcome you on our show today. Looking at your book, I see that you have a lot to offer to my readers, a lot to offer to young entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs, and people on their way of making their business a success. So I wanted to speak with you about the 7 secrets of responsive leadership, as well as far as your background. I noticed that you are very accomplished. You qualify to be a coach. Unlike a lot of people that I see out here coaching, you have been at the top spot in every aspect of your career.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that started and progressed?
Sure. Well, you see all this kind of gray hair here, right, Rashad? Experience matters sometimes when you think you have something to offer. And I'm not saying age is the only contributor to experience, because young people have experiences too, and they have a lot to offer. Over the years, I have, I grew up with the core value, to whom much is given, much is expected, that Matthew 28 saying. So I've always felt like part of what makes me the person that I am, the leader that I am, is kind of the core values that drive me. And that's one of them. So over the years, even as a young leader, I started my leadership journey, shortly, actually, throughout my career. In high school, I was a leader, and certainly in college and in my sorority, and in nonprofit charitable activities. And over the years, I have, tried to use lessons that I've learned as a way to help others along. And that's part of why we are all here. Some people call it paying it forward. And we do try to really live that as part of who we are. So I've been very privileged over the course of my career to have, great lessons that I've learned, and also wonderful experiences, and to try to build on them, grow from them, and use them to support others along the way as they are developing their career or dealing with their own set of personal challenges and issues.
Okay. So where would you say that stemmed from? I would say that you would have to have a lot of perseverance to be able to, as far as your peers and everything is concerned. I was speaking with a psychologist yesterday on my podcast, and she kind of feel like the fact that she was growing up in her age, all of the trouble that she's seen and all of the pitfalls as far as growing up in her age was reason for her to advance later on in her career. So she kind of feel like that's the reason the psychology behind how she was able to, advance and be able to move past her peers and things of that nature. What would you say was your guiding grace as far as moving along to be a leader?
Well, that's very interesting that your psychologist basically said, we are the sum of our experiences, and we can either use those experiences to grow from them, learn from them, or we can ignore them or not understand and not take those moments as teaching moments for ourselves. But I do believe that, as an African-American woman growing up, I benefited from the legacies that were passed along to me. I grew up in an environment. Both my maternal grandparents and my fraternal grandparents, both on my mother's side and my father's side, were role models for me. I mean, they instilled in our family the value of education, the value of hard work, the value of integrity, the value of faith. And those things drove, us. I was a first generation college grad in my family, and all of those experiences, all of those teachings, all of those core values contributed to making me who I am. And I, believe it's so important for us to honor our legacy, honor our history. And when we do that, we know that, none of us got to where we are simply because of who we are.
Right.
That contributes to making us the person we are, who we are, our own drive, our own personal investment, our own personal drive. But there's something that got us to have that drive, to have that faith, to have that confidence, to have that ability to put, resilience. And in my book, I start off, I kind of believe, when I talk about responsive leadership, what makes a responsive leader, I really believe that is driven by what our core values are.
Okay.
And for me, I start off with kind of all those things I just talked to you about. And when I put it all together, it comes to kind of what I call I call it the big four in terms of my own leadership. So curiosity, humility, empathy, and resilience. And when I think about leadership, and if you're not a curious person, it's very hard, I think, for you to be a responsive leader, because a responsive leader wants to know, how are you doing, Rashad? What are you reading? A responsive leader, if you're in a company and you're leading a company, you want to know what the competitors are doing.
Right.
You want to study your competitors. You want to know, you're curious about the world around you. If you're trying to develop a new product, new products develop out of curiosity. Innovation develops out of curiosity. So I start off with this core belief, the curiosity. If you're not a curious person, it's very hard for you to be a responsive leader. And if you have a company and you don't think about your employees, you don't care about your employee, you're not curious, a lot of leadership books talk about leaders who, are walk around leaders. Mm-hmm. They know that, every level of their company, you have to have people who love this company. And one reason people love their company is that people care about them. Leadership cares about them. So curiosity kind of is that first driver for me. I often ask my clients when I'm coaching, I want them to be reading something all the time. Maybe it's a spiritual guide. Maybe they're picking up the latest, daily word, but you need to keep your mind active. You need to be curious. You need to be curious about the world. You need to be curious about the people in the world around you. And that curiosity drives your ability to then be humble, humility. Because if you are a responsive leader, you know that you're not doing this alone. If you have a great company, you have great people in your company. And the responsive leader understands that. In my book, I talk about who you surround yourself with. And I always, if you are a humble person, then you can have confidence. You're okay with putting people around you who might know more than you about something, who might be smarter than you on some issues. You didn't get in your leadership role if you weren't really good at what you were doing. So if you're humble, you can open yourself up to be surrounding yourself with the very best. You can open yourself up to saying, you know what, I can learn from Rashid. I may not think like him on everything because he comes with a different set of experiences. So Rashad can help me think about how I might approach this. Or you have the ability to turn it over to Rashad and let him, but that's, you have to have a certain level of humility in order to take that leap, in order to say, you know what, I'm not that good in, for example, I am the most uncreative person. I can't sing a lick, but I love to surround myself with good singers.
Right.
Because they add so much beauty to the room.
Right.
So, so that's my second of my big four, humility. And then the third for me is empathy. I think responsive leaders have the ability to show empathy. And when you show empathy, it means that you have the ability to treat people well. And for me, responsive leadership is all about the human touch. It's all about how we treat people. And, when you're a leader in your company, if you treat people well, sometimes it's not about money, Rashad. Money, we all want money. But you've seen people, or you've heard of people that have left a high-paying job because they weren't treated well. They weren't respected, or they weren't allowed to grow and develop. So this ability to have empathy and to, try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Now, over this last 5 years, we have, seen a lot about empathy in leadership, and people can make a decision of, what empathy means. But what leaders are learning, especially after COVID, is we do have to think about how our employees are impacted by our organization, by our structures, by how we do business, how we respect them, and part of what they're saying now about, right now you have the highest number of the people just leaving their jobs.
Yep.
And in part, they're leaving their jobs because they don't feel that, leadership, the company's higher ups really empathize and understand what they're going through, or don't even try.
Right.
So that the ability for a leader to show empathy, I think goes right along with humility. And then, my final kind of core value about being a responsive leadership is what I just call resilience. And that is the ability to get back up and keep going. and to bounce back, because all of us in our lives have setbacks. And it's really then, what do we do with those setbacks? And I once heard someone say, a setback is a setup. A setback is a setup for your next level of success. If you look at it that way, we can, so that's what I call resilience, that, each of us in our leadership journey, we are going to have some issues. We're going to run into some problems. And especially, I think people of color, we run into problems. In part because, we find ourselves in these situations. I grew up, being told, you got to work harder, you got to work smarter, you got to work faster, you can't make mistakes. And so we set ourselves up for this, platform where, if we make a mistake, then we start taking it personally and we get caught up, and it's hard for us to get out of that. So, when I talk with and think about responsive leadership, I want us to have this mindset that we do have to keep going. We do have to struggle through whatever it is that is confronting us, and use our talents and our skills, use our curiosity, use our humility, use our empathy to, get ourselves through this, whatever that situation is. And that's what I call resilience, this ability to just keep going. And, that to me means leaning on the legacy that we have come from as Black people, because resilience is all that got us where, it is one of the main things that got us where we are as a people. We just kept going despite all that, we had to confront. So those are kind of some core values, Rashad, that I kind of feel certainly drives me, and it defines, and, it starts off with, when I talk about responsive leadership, I don't even want to get to the lessons until we figure out what are our core values, what drives us.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, very much. I like that. It kind of puts something into perspective, what you just said about all of the people quitting their jobs at the moment. And I think everything that the way that you just named the values, it starts with curiosity, it ends with resilience. The Great Resignation is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
So I've been, I read up on it and do the research and whatnot, but there's a lot of people quitting their jobs or was laid off because of it, because of COVID. And they were able to, get stimulus checks and things like that. And during that time, I believe that people were able to go through the steps that you just named and kind of see, okay, they are not being empathetic with me. It's, checks coming from government, it's not coming from the job. Especially the big businesses that would rather lay their, they get PPPs, millions and billions, but would rather lay their employees off.
Yeah.
So you have your fast food restaurant chains and servers who are not getting paid anything. So there's no empathy there. They never wanted to raise their pay.
Yeah.
So I think what happened is people went through the processes you just named, and the last part of being resilient, they've been knocked down one more time. So the resilient part starts back over, and here they are being curious again. But they're not curious about the job they had. They're curious now. Well, maybe I can go to school. Maybe I can buy a food truck and still work in a restaurant.
Absolutely.
And I totally see that everything that you just broke down, going through those steps, I think that's where people are at in society at the moment.
And I think that's wonderful. I mean,
definitely.
If you want to be self-reliant and you're brave enough to step out there and say, I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to, and then you have the steps. That curiosity is the first thing, because you're going to go out and learn. Well, I see Sam down the street with his driving company. He seems to, how did he do it? I want to learn how he did that, or how she did that. What did she do? You're going to go out and do some research. I saw an article, an interview with a woman yesterday, and it was really interesting because she was an African-American woman, had worked really hard all of her life, went through a really bad divorce. And she said, I was just totally down and depressed and down on myself. And she thought about it, and she realized the only way she was going to get out of that depression was if she found some meaning. She found something she was passionate about. And she started this company that aimed towards young Black kids, mainly girls, around STEM. And she never thought, it would grow, but now she was national TV being interviewed. She puts together boxes of STEM kind of activities for girls. I think she said 8 to 12 or 8 to 15 or something like that. And it was something, she was curious, and she was passionate, and she put that curiosity together and went out and did some research on, she found out that there weren't any products aimed at young Black girls that could be put in a box and given to them as a gift around STEM. And it was very inspirational. So I think a lot of people who are having the courage to step out and say, you know what, I'm going to do something different. I think that's phenomenal. That's fabulous.
I do too. I love to hear those inspirational stories,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you come from a loss and the loss ends up being a gain or a win.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you, not only do you have a book, but you have a coaching
Mm-hmm.
program,
Mm-hmm.
basically to go along with it. Is that where you teach these principles?
You're part of it. My coaching, I'm a certified Gallup strengths coach. And, Gallup strength coaching really is complementary to what I write about in the book. Because what we believe in is, we grow up so much trying to fix things. Well, I don't have an accounting degree. I really don't like accounting. I don't like math, but I got to go and become a great math person in order to run a business. And so what Gallup says, what we believe in is if we find out what we're really good at, what we're inclined to be good at, what our talents are, then we enhance those talents. We work on those talents. Now, that doesn't mean we have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. But what we believe is you manage the weaknesses. So if I'm going to own a company and I'm not necessarily good at math, I need to understand that. And then I need to manage it. So what do I need to understand about my financial statements? No, I may not like to do the financial statements, but I got to know how to read the financial statements.
Right.
So you kind of learn how to build on your strengths, build on your talents, and manage your weaknesses. And that's kind of the guiding principle. And I think it's very complementary to my book in terms of those 4 core values that I just talked to you about. And so my coaching starts off with helping my clients to understand where their talents are. And then once you find out what they are, then you got to honor that. That's, a lot of us like to forget our past. We like to, what we believe is when you find out what you're good at, honor that, praise that, accept that, acknowledge that, use that, and grow with it. So, for example, in some families, we have people, one particular talent is like, we call it a ranger. So somebody in your family, if there's a party, that's the person to call. She's going to get it organized. She's going to get people started on time. She's going to make sure the food is there. She's going to make sure the music is there. That's a talent. And a lot of times, so say if you have that talent to be an arranger, you're really good at it. You should look for things in your life that allows you to arrange. So not hide it. And sometimes, the person says, well, I've been arranging the party too much. Let somebody else do it. And then they get Sally Joe to do it, and she's totally disorganized and she doesn't do a good job because she has other talents.
Right.
She's not an arranger.
Yeah.
So if you're an arranger and you like to arrange, honor that. So don't feel bad that people come to you and ask you to organize the party.
Right.
Because that means that you're good at it. Do you see what I'm saying? So in Gallup, that's the way we start. We start by finding out what the things are that you're inclined to be good at, that you kind of naturally good at. And then you work that. You get better at it. And we like to say you perfect it. So, for example, I'm a futurist. I like to think about the future. I see things that people can do. I see ways for people to, use their talents and their energy. So be proud of that. Another one that people, a lot of times people don't understand is, have you ever gone to a party or something when there's one person in the party who likes to talk to everybody, who likes to make sure everybody's comfortable, who would be bored to death if you made them sit on a sofa and talk to only one person.
Right.
So that's a person that we call a woo. They are naturally talkative. They are naturally energy generators. They're natural connectors to other people. That's a great talent. Not everybody has that talent.
No.
But there's some people who, if they're in a party and you want them to talk to everybody in the party, they're going to be so sad because that's not them. They would rather go meet Rashad and have a deep conversation with Rashad.
Right.
That's good. If that's the way you are, don't try to be a woo. If you're much more comfortable in the party, going over in a corner and spending 15 minutes talking to one person, honor that. Right. Don't feel like you got to bounce around and talk to everybody at the party.
Yeah, definitely.
See what I'm saying? So that's what we try to do. We try to start off with really understanding, what's kind of our natural inclination.
Would that have anything to do with, there's a test for personality?
We do. Gallup has perfected this over the course of now 55 years. Millions and millions of people. We do a very quick online assessment. It takes about a half an hour. And believe it or not, we ask this 80 questions, all multiple choice. And the computer spits out your top 5 talents. It can spit out all of your 36. And that's what we use to work from. We begin that. That's how we begin the process. And then we use this in looking at our everyday life experiences as a leader in your organization. If you're, a team leader, or you're the leader in your church group, or, we say, understand what makes me the very special person I am. And all of us in our life ask that question, what makes me me? What makes me unique? What makes Rashad unique? Rashad's asking that question, what am I put on earth to do? What makes me, what makes me tick? So this assessment just helps you figure out a little bit about what makes you tick, because it helps you identify the things that you do well. And then you put all that together with our life experiences, with what's happening in our life at the moment, with what we've learned and the lessons we've learned and how we problem solve, how we think about problems. You put all that together, but it all starts with, what makes me different? How am I different from Rashad?
And this is aligned, I would say, with your purpose,
Yes.
faith.
Yes.
And once you figure that out, life gets so much more easier.
Yes. Yes. And you can feel okay with not saying I got to be somebody that I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of us go through life saying, oh, why can't I be like Sally? Well, no, you're not Sally. We each are unique and different. And what Gallup has learned, we have these 36 different, what we call talent themes. And in order, we always ask, what makes me tick? In order to find someone with your talents in the exact order that you have to run into nearly 300,000 people. So, we look at, say, we have 34 of them, and we look at, say, the top 10. In order to find somebody with your exact top 10, now they may be the same top 10, but in a different order.
Yeah.
But in the exact order, you have to meet almost 300,000 people.
Wow.
So that's why we're all unique.
Yeah.
We are all different because we all bring together all the things that made us who we are. Our upbringing, our life experiences, all of that, plus our natural talents, our natural instincts. And so that's kind of the approach we take. And we do that work. It's very complementary to when I think about leadership. And, when I think about responsive leadership. Now, there are all kinds of leaders, and nobody says that there's, an absolute way to be a good leader. But when I think about responsive leadership, for me, responsive leadership starts with the humanity in the company, in the organization. Because I believe that no matter what the organization is, it's all driven by the people that make up the organization.
Okay. So on that topic, can we agree, or would you say that the people, the team, is the most important aspect of the organization?
Absolutely. I mean, the humanity of an organization, no organization can survive without its people. And the organizations that are thriving, for me, a thriving organization honors its people. Some people say, well, it's really the technology, it's really the legacy. But all of that is, technology doesn't work without people.
Yeah.
Legacy, people, we're creating the legacy. If we don't understand our past, it's, how do we create the future?
Right.
So all of that is driven by, how the people in the organization feel about the organization.
I read up on like millennials and the new age, Generation Z, I believe it is. So the studies show that they are more likely to work for a company that gives back or is involved in green opportunities, for the earth and the trees and whatnot. So they would prefer to work for a company that has those type of values as far as giving back. And it was, they would turn down just the normal high pay, high salary in order to work for a company of that sort.
Well, and you some of the big companies are learning this.
Yeah.
Now you're reading about, big Fortune 50, leaders are saying, we want to be a purpose-driven company.
Yeah.
Whether it's the big Goldman Sachs or Jamie Dimon's now saying, purpose has to drive our company. So even you look at some of these mergers, they're coming up with names that go on the more humane, the humanist side of their organization. So they're trying to stress their values. So that is lessons that we're learning now about how you keep a workforce as productive as it can be, how you keep people happy. When we first started talking, we said, sometimes it's not money.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes it is money because people have to make a living wage,
Right.
But people also want to work in an environment where they feel their work is appreciated.
Right.
They want to work in an environment where they feel respected. They want to work in an environment where they enjoy coming to work. They don't want to wake up in the morning and say, oh, God, I got to go to work today. I've got to be around all these people I don't like. Or because, we spend so much of our life in work. Well, we did before COVID. But even now, even with COVID, if you're working from home, you still are spending a lot of time on the screen, on the Hollywood screens. So yeah, purpose and value and passion are, some of the things that frankly, it's not all young people, but certainly we're seeing that in, why people are leaving, when they do exit interviews, they're finding out a lot of people are leaving. It wasn't because they didn't get paid enough.
Right.
Leaving because they didn't find the job engaging enough. They didn't find that they were intellectually stimulated enough. They didn't find that, they were respected, or they didn't find that, they were given the kind of benefits that encourage them to grow intellectually and personally, and to feel proud of when they come in. You think about, those were messages that Martin Luther King was giving us, right? When he said, if you want to be a street worker, be the best street worker. If you're going to be, Michelangelo, be the best Michelangelo. So people are finding that they're in these environments that's not allowing them to be the very best that they can be.
Right.
So I think those are things that are contributing to this great migration out of these jobs.
That's a definite. I don't know. I try to, a lot of my interviews and research and things like that with young people, they totally have a different mindset as I guess Generation X did, baby boomers. Also, it's with it being a capitalist society, it's like we're at a split in the road right now. And no one can really decide if, well, companies and businesses, it's kind of difficult to decide which way your business is going to go, but I do see a lot of people that they're giving up equity for their companies so people can stay. And it's like you said earlier, it's a good direction we're going in. I think your book should be a bestseller, teaching people that these are the core values that we should have at heart. And then maybe, everyone works with their passion, their faith, and businesses would just grow naturally, I would believe.
Yeah, so when I was growing up, my mom, she worked for General Motors. She worked on the assembly line at General Motors in Flint, Michigan 39 years. And, you know, I spent 21 years at a health company. I spent 12 years as a college president. I spent 5 years. So, you know, we grew up with this notion that you get a job and you stay in that job, you know, and we grew up, you know, like my mom, you know, she probably felt like, you know, she had to do that. She had General Motors, paid decent. She got a car, she had health insurance. She could, you know, support our family along with my dad. But nowadays, people want more than that. They want, you know, they want to be able to support their family. Absolutely. They want to be able to, you know, have a decent lifestyle, but they also want to feel valued. They also want to feel like they're contributing. They also want to feel like, you know, they're respected. They want those things too. And I think I find younger people, you know, it used to be, you know, you would have a job, you know, something. When I first became a college president, the data was showing that people kept a job, I think it was like 6.7 years, something like that. Then it went down to, you know, like 2. So nowadays, if someone stays in a job 2 years, these 22-year-olds who are just getting out of college, they will, that's probably, they feel like that's a long time. You know, my niece graduated from great college, and like many young college people, her first job, she wanted to go to New York. She was from Boston area. And you know, so when I'd go down to New York, I'd take her out to dinner or something. And about 18 months into her job, she was working in one of the social media company type jobs. She said, well, you know, I'm coming up on my 2 years. I'll probably start looking around. And I'm like, you only been in the job 2 years. Yep. But that is about what these young people say. They say about 2 years. And then they, you know, and she found another job, and she's been in that one now like a year and a half, and she's very happy, so she may stay longer. But it's, I guess what I'm saying, Rashad, is it's not unusual for these young people to stay in a job 2 years, and then they want to go to the next level. They want to learn more. They want to do more. They want more pay. They want more flexibility. A lot of these young people, they will take flexibility over, you know, more money. They, right. You know, they will say, you know, I want to be able to take my vacations.
Exactly. They're finding a way to work from the beach.
Yes, they do.
Sure do. So, okay, I feel like we've got responsive leadership down. Can you tell us a little of the secrets that you have mentioned in the book? A little bit about that.
So I give 7 secrets, and we probably don't have time to go through all of them, but I will, since we're kind of talking about values, one of the secrets that I talk about is keep your bags packed.
Okay.
Now, because a lot of times people ask me, well, what are your favorite ones of the 7? And keep your bags packed is one, and take advantage of opportunities. So maybe we can talk briefly about the 2 of them.
Okay, keep your bags packed. That's interesting. That sounds really interesting. Let's hear about it.
So many years ago, when I was in graduate school, there was a brother who, I was in Massachusetts, which is a predominantly white state. Boston is predominantly white. And he became the very first Black commissioner of corrections for the state of Massachusetts. And he was a social worker by training, and I was in social work school. So we went to hear him speak. So this was many decades ago, Rashad. And what the name of his speech was, keep your bags packed. And what he meant by that was, in our life, we are going to have a challenge that's going to challenge our integrity. So you might be in a job where your core values are challenged. And if you go in it with a mindset that I gotta have this job, sometimes we totally compromise ourselves. So he was basically saying, I'm not talking about just, I got to compromise whether I go to work this weekend, but he was talking about when it gets to your soul, when it gets to your core values of who you are, that's when you keep your bags packed. And basically he was saying to us, it takes a lot of courage to step out of something when you're being compromised. But if you have a mindset that I have some lines in the sand, it's sort of like what we were talking about before, about if you know what drives you, what are my lines in the sand? So I'm in this job where they're asking me to lie or cheat or steal, and I got to keep this job. And he was saying, if you have the mindset that there's some lines I am not going to cross, then I will quit. And so that was his message to us: keep your bags packed. And literally, this is 3 or 4 decades later. I think that's one of the most important things we can do, is to really understand what our line in the sand is.
Right.
Because so many times, especially when we're young in our careers, we think we have to do something in order to keep this job or to stay on the leadership track. We find it a lot with women. If you're in a law firm and you've got a child at home, you sacrifice everything to get that partnership, and then you look up 20 years later and you find out I have no relationship with my child.
Mm.
So that's what he meant by keep your bags packed. Understand what your core principles are, what your core values are. And sometimes we have to make tough decisions. So I have a friend that just went through that. She really had a tough decision to make because, she had an opportunity, but that opportunity was going to take her away from her family. And she ended up passing up that opportunity. And if we have faith, we know things happen for a reason. So something else came along. It didn't come along right away for her, but it did come along. And she ended up in a situation where she was driving and she could really focus on her family and focus on her professional life. Or sometimes we have to say, I can do everything, but I can't do it all at the same time. So that's what John Boone meant by keep your bags packed. He only stayed the commissioner of corrections for about 18 months. And he quit because the correction department was so corrupt at that time. It wasn't open to people of color. There was a lot of, hiring your brothers and your cousins for the Irish. And he couldn't, he left. He just wasn't going to compromise himself that way. So that's one of my favorite of my 7, keep your bags packed. I'm going to just pause. You're kind of looking, what do you think about that?
I'm thinking about, I have a few of those stories to tell. I have a few of those of myself, my experience. So I'm kind of thinking about the experiences that I've had to where I had to pack up my bags and leave. That's the total truth. And we get so wrapped up in, well, you have to have a job, you have to afford a living. Mm-hmm. But we do kind of get wrapped up in it, and then you question yourself, you find yourself questioning your integrity and the way that you was raised and brought up. So there is a fine line in the sand, and I think employers know that put you in that position. Yeah. That, more than likely they get this job, the benefits are just good enough, the pay is just well enough that, we can ask them to do this, and they will cross that line.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and to be honest, I would have to say that's why I'm an entrepreneur to this day. Like,
Yes.
so yeah, I totally get it. So I was just sitting there kind of thinking about what you were saying. So yeah,
Mhm.
that may be my favorite secret as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one because we do have to earn a living, and we do have to we need to feel good about ourselves. And so sometimes that's where it comes in to, sometimes understand that when we're in these situations, there are other people who are having these same kind of situations. And, talking and getting help is one good thing, because when we talk, we find out that, what we're going through, we're not going through this alone. There are other people going through similar, maybe not the exact thing that you're going through, but
Right.
something similar. So the other one that I love is, opportunity.
Mhm.
Take opportunities. And sometimes in our personal lives, we can't step out there and take that risk, or we don't see where something that's opening up for us could be an opportunity.
Right.
So seeking opportunity, taking advantage of opportunity is another one of the secrets that I like. And I tell a story in my book. When I first started as the president of Denman Community Health Center, it was a organization that was literally in bankruptcy. And so I won't go into the whole story, but you can read my book. But it was this wonderful organization with this great legacy, this long history of over 100 years of many, many firsts. And we had buildings that were crumbling. And so I didn't know anything about historic preservation. I was a manager. So an opportunity came, a real estate appraiser had told us, he had appraised the property, and we had these beautiful buildings. And he basically said, demolish the buildings and, salt the land. And this would be great space for condos at some point, because it was the organization was an old hospital that was started by women. And it was sitting on this hill, beautiful hill in the middle of the inner city with blighted buildings. But on a good day, you could look down, you could see downtown Boston from where it was. So an opportunity came. I met someone, a white guy, who was head of a historic organization in Boston. And he did not want to see those buildings demolished. So that was the opportunity. I thought, I never thought I would get in the business of saving historic buildings. But by learning about historic preservation and taking advantage of that opportunity, we were able to save that organization. And now it's serving, over 40,000 patients each year. And it's still sitting in the middle of inner city Boston, and serving that community. So we have opportunities. Sometimes we don't see them. Sometimes we see them, but we're too scared. Sometimes we're not curious enough to figure out, how can I use this opportunity? I want to start a business. I'm going to have to, I got an opportunity here. How can I use it? So that's the very first secret that I talk about is, don't, make sure if you're going to let an opportunity pass, that was the opportunity that should pass. But most times we don't take advantage of opportunity. So those
And
are
we should.
Yeah.
We definitely should. I have a new way of seeing things and going about life. And it basically, if something enters my mind, it means that, I guess maybe it came with experience, but if something enters my mind, and like you say, it's an opportunity, I am going to proceed with it. Because the way that I look at it is, if I wasn't prepared for it, it never would have entered my mind. Had I not, I'm a creative. So a lot of times the ideas that I have are creative ideas, mainly, something to do with marketing or helping something out or someone out. And if it enters my mind, I feel like I'm a very spiritual person. It's God talking to me.
That's right.
So it's something that's been put inside of me, and I need to go ahead and go along with it.
And follow up, at least be open to it. At least be open to exploring. You may find out, I really explored, I did some research on online banking, and I found out I can't start an online bank. Well, it entered your mind, you took advantage of that opportunity, you learned about it, and then no, I can't do online banking, but I can do this.
Right. You came to a decision and you was able to,
to use it and chart a path that is the right path for you.
And it, like you said, with the historic building, it could definitely take you down a different path. But I believe there is a speech by Jim Rohn, and the name of the speech is Just Do It.
Oh, I love it.
If you can watch that, it goes very well with the take advantage of an opportunity aspect of your book.
R-O-M-E?
R-O-H-N-E, I believe.
Oh, R-O-H-N-E.
He's very, very well known. So it's on YouTube, has a few million views. Every marketing person that I know recommend watching it. It's just a couple of minutes long.
Oh, okay. I'm going to look it up. Wow.
Look that up and check that out. And one more I want to ask you about before I let you go. It's the look for opposition. Just a tidbit about that. Can't you?
Yeah. So especially if you're a leader in a organization, no matter how big or small the organization is, it could be your church group. I kind of put people in 3 buckets. So there will be a group of people who will believe in you. And if you're the leader, they're going to say, Rashad wants us to do this. I'm going to support Rashad, because he wouldn't be head of the URSHA board if he, wasn't qualified to do it. Then there's a group of people, the largest group of people are in the middle in any organization, and they kind of go along with whatever it is. They'll follow. They may not be as enthusiastic as that, first 20%. But then there's usually about 20% or some percentage of people who are going to be opposing whatever it is you're trying. They're going to be questioning it. And usually, very often, leaders don't pay attention to the opposition. They spend their time with the rah-rah people who are definitely going to be with them, because it helps us. It keeps us, motivated. And, sometimes it helps our ego when we've got people who are right over here. Yay, Jackie, you're great. I'll do whatever you say. Then, you spend a little bit of time trying to convince the people in the middle, because you do need them. But most of the time, we don't spend enough time understanding what's driving the people that are opposing us. Now, sometimes they're opposing us for very principled reasons. And especially, I spent a lot of my time in white organizations. And, sometimes they oppose us just because they don't like us. And no matter what the organization is, black or white, I don't like her. I don't like the way she looks. I don't like the way she talks. Whatever she says, I'm not going to do it. So first of all, as a responsive leader, you want to try to understand what's driving the opposition. So for those people that what's driving them as principles or just total, I don't agree with the strategy for these 10 reasons. You can talk with them. You can say, okay, you don't think we should be doing this, but how you might say, well, you know what, Rashad has a good point. Maybe we can modify what we're doing, but you got to understand what's driving Rashad. Mm-hmm. And then there's a small group of people that no matter what you do and no matter what you say, they are not going to follow you. They are not going to support you. They are going to be opposed to you. You got to then figure out how you deal with them. So part of what I believe a responsive leader does is to really try to understand what's driving the opposition. Then you can figure out what's the best way to either get them to change their mind, or what's the best way for you to ignore them.
Right.
Or deal with them. So that's one of the seven secrets. Understand the opposition.
Okay. I like that one. So I know you have another business or another meeting to get on. So I'm going to let you go. I will like to circle back so
Absolutely.
we can spend some time on all of them.
Yes,
all
I
of the secrets.
Our conversation.
Yes. These are going a lot longer because I love these talks.
That's great. That's great.
So I want to thank you for coming on, and want you to have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
And I'll be in touch soon.
Thank you. And have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season and very healthy, safe, prosperous 2022.
Oh, thanks very much. Thanks very much. Much success to this book.
Thank you.
I wish you all the sales.
Thank you. Thank you. Take good care.
You too. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.